he's actually withdrawn the application.
Well, she didn't want anybody to think that he was a bad guy. Well, that's right. No, I told him, I said, nobody thinks
He
that
was
you're trying
afraid,
to.
he was afraid that we thought he was like a bad guy. I'm like, you can ask what you want for, it doesn't mean we can support it.
Well, he thinks that we are under the impression that the board said no to begin with, and that, because he remembers from his meeting, he doesn't have anything in writing, he said he was verbally told that.
Well, see, that's actually against Florida statute because homeowners associations are required to report that.
Well, maybe they did.
Well, that's the
Saying
thing,
that-
had the meeting, had he decided to have the meeting, they would have all come up because the homeowners association president was gonna come with their attorney.
Oh, because they didn't want.
And they gave us a petition and all kinds of stuff.
He said that they were all for it during the meeting, but now, so then he applied for it, and then we sent the letter, postcard to the homeowners association, and they called and they were like, we didn't approve this, we're not gonna approve it.
You think that's what it is?
So then when we sent him the letter from them, they decided that.
No, it's downstairs and I haven't gotten it finished. I've been rather busy this today.
I didn't have a
Like
warm jacket,
yesterday.
I had just a sweatshirt.
You will get it, I do promise that.
So I don't know if it's.
I have no doubt that those days will be gone.
But I mean, I told him, I said, nobody thinks you lie or anything like that around here. I mean, it's just wrong.
If people just burst out thinking that they're scared, I don't know what we would do if he thinks we would do something to him. I mean,
I have taken my boat back so many
he's
nights
just, I
where
mean,
my
he's
wife went
legitimately
inside
making
the
a
cabin,
request.
went to sleep.
There was a petition though they got
She
out?
didn't know how I
Yeah.
was standing out to
That's
get a little
unfortunate.
cold wind in my face. and Never bothered me. I just came from the water treatment plant. And then the Citizens Academy, taking, I got
No,
both
she's
events
not
done.
here. She's in
There from 6 to 8, here 7
someplace
days.
she went. She wasn't here. So she
Tonight
asked
with the
that
RO system.
we read her letter
was
into
the
the record,
number
which
one
I'll do.
thing
Once I
I
give the staff report, we'll just
So they
read
gave me
her
a
letter
call to
at the
come
end
back
of
and
the
do a
staff
private
report into the record
Tour. Because I'm sure
for
my
her.
wife is
So
not
it's
gonna
on
pay
the
attention.
record, even though it technically is in the record, but just in case there's somebody here.
So they gave me this so I could read through.
It's the one she had in here now. She said that's all that she had to say, and I said, that's fine. Yes, sir.
I was over at George's today.
I did get
Oh,
a
yeah?
chance to talk to Tom,
Haven't been to
and,
him in a while.
what he said is it's the homeowners responsible on
I've
either
been
side of
busy
the
in the
right of
house,
way.
you know.
So, if it's trees, you'd have to get a permit, if it's not trees, it's just bush hogging and that
These
sort of
are-
thing, then
How you do,
you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, Good word phrase.
It's
It
on
has been a while. I was hoping to go this
You're very
Friday, but
welcome,
now I
sir.
got two.
And I can pull it if you want the actual language.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about going. It'd probably be kinda cool there.
He loves his job.
Right, right.
The job's online every day.
Yeah, I did go to that. It was overwhelming, and they've expanded it, and even that part was back. It was a little over the top.
That's what I thought. But I heard like that the spaces that they made, because I know they did like a lot of installations
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff, I heard those were really great. And then I went to a show, I think a week later, that was a smaller show. It might be
Match.
Friday.
I don't know, match
Friday
maybe?
after.
I think it's called a match.
And it's match,
Like night,
Carnival,
like night, like the King of Silence match.
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff there.
Just say match, that sounds good.
It was so packed that I couldn't see the stage, couldn't hear the music. Right, right. Wasn't relaxing.
Is our applicant supposed to be here?
The applicant is not gonna be here for the first application, the second application, we're gonna have to withdraw, so.
Is the first one gonna be deferred?
No, she's not gonna be here, she's asked me to read her letter into the record, she says that's her, that's all she would have to say anyway, so.
Are we ready to start?
We're good.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Adjustment, City of Tarpon Springs, for January 20th, 2016. Can we have the roll call, please?
Chairman Elliott,
Here?
Mr. Rabowski,
Here.
Mr. Alahousas,
Here.
Mr. Burris,
Here.
Mr. Eisner,
Here.
Okay. Let me skip the second one and go to the approval of the minutes, I think we can. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, get the motion, Chris and Chris? Chris 1 and Chris 2 or something? or-
Mr. Eisner,
Mike?
Yes.
Mr. Burris,
Yes.
Mr. Alahousas,
Yes.
Mr. Rabowski,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman Elliott.
Yes, and very good job. Thank you very much in the minutes. All right, does the city attorney wish to make a comment concerning the applicant number 4, 1401 Meyer Lane?
No, actually, be application number 5.
Application number 5 is the one that was withdrawn. Number 4, application number 15-1.
Can we get on the mics? The
Sorry.
tape doesn't hear us very well.
Sorry about that. Application 15-116, the variance to increase the maximum height of a fence. That one is moving forward as planned. Staff would give their presentation first.
Since there's nobody here for the applicant.
The applicant is not, the applicant is not here.
Okay, for the record, there's no one here in opposition, and the applicant is not here in person.
Well,
I'm sorry, I don't know, we do have somebody in the audience.
No, that's just, I've seen you before, right?
Oh, okay,
She's a guest.
okay.
And
okay.
Cindy Domino
My
is
apologies.
here as our alternate.
What about the other lady?
She's just a guest.
Oh,
Okay, my guest.
okay,
So,
whatever you want to do.
Um,
Probably should swear me
yeah,
anyway.
go ahead and raise your right hand. Sir, do you swear to tell the truth on the matters before the Tarpon Springs Board of Adjustment here this evening?
I do.
All right, thank you.
And with that, this is application 15116 for 1404 Myers Lane for NECT. The variance is to increase the maximum height of a fence from 4 foot to 6 foot in the front yard. Basically, the code requirement here is all residential districts, no fences, walls, or hedges shall exceed 4 feet in height when located within the required front yard. The subject property is located on the corner of Myers Lane and Keystone Road. There was a previous variance granted for this property. Essentially, what occurred is when the expansion of Keystone Road occurred, there is a grade differential there, and the staff agreed with the applicant during that variance that it was warranted to allow for on the property adjacent to the portion of the property adjacent to the actual right-of-way intersection to allow for an 8-foot fence along the side and then a 6-foot high fence in the front yard in that portion that's closest to the actual intersection. What the applicant is now requesting is something different than that. What they're actually requesting is for a 4-foot high fence to be, a 6-foot high fence to be installed around the front door, essentially, on the front of the property. So that's really the difference between the previous application and this particular application. With that, the grade differential issue that was the subject of the previous variance really doesn't apply here. Where we're talking about on the property, yes, you can see the street, but this property is the first property into or from the intersection in. So you're always going to have that situation on the corner lot where you can visibly see the intersection. That's not something that's unique to this particular property. What's unique in this particular property's case is the grade differential on that one portion of the property, which has already really been addressed under that previous request. That being the case, that the home is slightly elevated above Myers Lane, and the topographical conditions that did prompt the previous variance still do exist. However, the applicant has installed the fence that they asked for in the previous request and still is now asking for an additional thing. Her basis for that request, which I'll read into the record after we go through the staff report, since she's not here, she'd asked that that be done, basically doesn't give me justification for that. Her concerns are more in line with, safety for her family, concerns with what's going on in the neighborhood and that type of thing. This variance would have to be based on physical conditions. It would have to be based on that topographical issue or some other defect in the lot that would promote that physical hardship. And that's just something that staff cannot find that physical hardship here, and there's been no justification or proof provided by the applicant that a 4-foot fence put in the front yard would not make her feel safe. There's been no proof that a 6-foot fence is necessary versus the 4-foot, and without that, there's really no basis for this variance. So staff basically has to recommend denial on this because it's not a physical hardship of the land that's causing this application. This application is a request that is based on safety and other concerns with the neighborhood that staff really can't speak to, and the code for the variance portion does not really speak to that issue. So that being the case, that is all that I have as a staff, is basically my recommendation is denial, and it's really based on, physical hardship and lack thereof, and lack thereof proof of a 4-foot versus a 6-foot fence, and how you're gonna feel safer behind a 6-foot versus a 4-foot fence. I need something to have a basis for that. So what I'll do is now read into the public record, unless you guys have any questions of me, what the applicant's request actually is.
Well, I do, actually.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, since I have read that letter, has Chief Cochin been contacted about the property across the street?
He is aware of the property across the street. The property across the street was red tagged some time back, and both the police department, through code enforcement, and the building development division are aware of the situation with that existing house.
Okay, then my second question would be, why 4 foot in the front? Why is that the standard?
To tell you the truth, I have absolutely no idea why that's the standard. It is, in fact, it just is what was decided. Generally,
I find it somewhat bizarre that there would be a difference between the
Well-
front yard, the side yard, and the backyard height of
Sure.
a fence. But I've seen it around Tarpon. I know that they do.
it is
do that.
exactly, you see it around Tarpon because that's the regulation. People who don't come in for a variance requesting any deviation from that are required anything within that front yard area, which is designated basically behind the setback. Anything that's before the setback requires them to, that would be considered their front yard, requires them to go no higher than 4 foot. The basis of that 4 foot, I couldn't tell you what the basis for that is. In planning in other communities, it's generally done that way because the idea is we don't want to wall off houses from the larger neighborhood. It's meant to allow for you to have that security, that secure perimeter, but at the same time, provide for ample opportunity for neighbors to walk by or that type of thing for interaction and that type of thing. That's the reasoning behind, from the planning perspective.
And when you
However,
spoke to her, she was concerned that, people would just climb over a 4-foot fence versus a
that,
6-foot?
basically, that's what she said. She said that they could just climb over the 4-foot fence, and I understand, but that's still not proof that's still not enough evidence to base a decision on that, of this type of situation, because unless the code changes to allow 6-foot fences in the front yard, the code says 4 foot.
Now, my very first meeting with the Board of Adjustment, we had a long discussion about the front yard and what could be designated the front of a house. Since this is a corner lot, is that even feasible for her to argue that?
Not in this case, because the way our code defines the front yard is it's where you take your access, both her pedestrian vehicular access are coming off of Myers Lane, not coming off of Keystone, which is appropriate because Keystone is a higher classified road
Right.
than Myers Lane is.
Right, that's true. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Yes, I have a question. From the perspective of aesthetics, if she came in to apply to have a uniform fence around the whole house, would you approve it then?
Only if it meets the requirements for height, for the height. In this case, she wants to exceed that height requirement. I could approve this if she asked for a 4-foot fence, if The material is not the problem here. What, the design of the fence is really not the problem. It's the height of the fence that's the issue. Because actually, the fence that she's proposing, there's pictures in the packet, is the same type of fencing that she's put on the rest of the property.
But the side one is 6 feet, correct?
The side one is 8 feet,
It's 8
actually.
feet now.
Correct.
And the back is 6 feet.
The back is also 8 feet. Well, the back, I don't know if she goes all the way to the back of the thing, because there's actually a wall there for where the
Yeah.
restoration subdivision wall is.
Isn't it odd to have 4 feet on one side and 8 feet on the other?
It is, and what the previous variance request was 8 foot on the side and 6 foot in the front, and that was granted. And so that's what she previously put in. So what she's asking for is to have that step down. She has the 8 foot in the side. She's asking for that step down for 6 and be able to extend it right along the front of the property, which essentially walls her off from the entire neighborhood.
Thank you.
Chairman? Sure. One question, just, can you speak in the mic?
Did you have the opportunity to look at the other cities and see what is their requirements? What code do they have in regards to the height on the front? on the front?
In other cities?
Yes.
That's not something that we'd be looking at.
No, no, I'm just asking.
No, I know what it is in other places I've worked, and, you know, many places have requirements for lower fences in the front yard. It's not a uniform requirement, but generally there are fences where most people don't want to have a privacy fence right along the front of their yard. There are places that do allow that, though, in certain districts.
And the reason why I'm asking that is I want to see the logic behind that. Why we decided to have 4 feet instead of 6 feet. You know,
And that's not a question that I can answer. It would be for the people who wrote this code
And
to
it's been there
tell
for many
us.
years,
And it's
I'm
been there
sure.
for many years.
Yeah.
Lots of the codes in this particular land development code have been on the books for a lot of years. So we've lost a lot of the intent for why they were adopted. What was the intent from? Was it an aesthetic issue? Was it a uniformity issue? What was the intention of that code being established?
thank you.
You're
I may
welcome.
be able to answer this question if you'd like. It was, I believe, it is a generalization that there is a 4 foot in the front code, and all the way up to the first part of your house. It's supposed to be 4 feet all the way around, then 6 feet from your house back. And that was for a security situation, to not be cordoned off so nobody could see you coming in or out of your house. And the second part was for vehicles turning, especially if you're on a corner, which this doesn't apply in this particular house. But in a lot of houses, if you did have that 6 foot front and 6 foot side, you would not be able to see cars in a turning situation. So those are pretty much your reasonings for it.
That's close, because our code actually has a clear visibility triangle within 30 feet from the intersection of a roadway and a driveway. So you have a clear visibility triangle that's produced by that 30 feet along both those roadways. So that turning movement is not really the crust of the issue here. However, it is one of those things, when you back out of your house, you have a 6 foot fence and you're coming down that driveway, you don't see what's coming behind you from that corner. So in that particular case, a 4 foot fence at least would allow you, when you're up in your car, would at least allow you to see over the edge of the fence if there was, cars coming down that road.
Now, the other thing I would say is, on this particular fence of what they're showing, you would be able to see in.
That's correct.
But since there's no distinguishing rule of what kind of fence they could put up a fence that's a solid fence, and then driving by, you would not be able to see.
Very
Nor
true.
would you be able to see out or in.
That's very true.
So, but there's no rule that this is going to be the fence that they're putting up?
No, she's basically making the request of you to allow for the height. The design of the fence in this particular case would be based on the district. This is outside the historic district, so there are no guidelines for the type of fencing that they have to do. Like, she doesn't have to do this. She could do a vinyl privacy fence. She could do board on board. She could do a picket fence. She could do whatever, a chain link fence, whatever she wants to do, essentially. There are no restrictions on the type of fencing outside of the historic district.
Mike, have you gone to this property?
I have gone to this property.
Did you see the driveway where it's literally behind a wall that's higher than that anyway? Off of a very busy intersection.
Yes. I
So
mean,
it's already in that situation.
you know, looking at the property, I can understand that the property across the street is a poor sight to look at. And in that aspect, I could see her point. As far as if it was my house, I mean, I don't know if I'd be putting a 6-foot fence. There's such a small amount of property in the front that you'd be caging yourself in. It'd be a nightmare for her to have to open it every time to pull a car in and out or to get in and out.
Right.
There's no place to even swing the doors, so unless she had sliding gates, she's gonna be swinging into the roadway. So, you know, that's why I don't understand. I would have preferred her to be here today to ask those questions of what her ideas would be, because the height is not really the issue. The issue is what type of fence she's gonna be putting in and how she's expected to utilize this to get in and out of it.
Unfortunately.
Which is her to figure out.
Unfortunately, the height is the issue. That's the only issue here, because the design and the type of fence is not something that we regulate.
Right, I understand that.
That's that, but understanding how that's all gonna work is really important to understanding how that a 6-foot fence is gonna be different than a 4-foot fence there, obviously. It's just the basis for this has to be that height. That's what the basis of your decision is.
Is there anybody in town that has a 6-foot front?
Not that I'm aware of. There may have been other variances granted, but since I've been here, I've not come across a property that's had this situation. I've not, in the research that I have done, not that I've looked at every variance that this board's granted. I would not be able to do my job if I had to spend that kind of time on that. I mean, you've granted a lot of variances over the years. That being the case, I've not come across the situation. This property is one of the few that does have a fence variance already on it. It's not something that you guys see on a regular basis. I mean, I've been here for 8 months now, and this is the first fence request we've had. Most of your variances are dimensional requirement issues that you guys deal with.
If I could hear what the applicant has
Sure.
to say.
I'd be glad to read that into the record. Okay, this is the written description of the hardship from the applicant. My house is located right on the corner of Keystone Road and Myers Lane. I am living on a corner lot open to Keystone, a large road. I am a single mom with a 5-year-old child. The open access to my front door from the Keystone Road traffic makes me feel unsafe. Also, there is an abandoned residential construction across from my house on Myers Lane, sitting there for almost 2 years. It is getting occupied by drug users and the homeless. The neighborhood is turning into an unsafe place, especially for families with small children.
Heather, do you know if she's talked to the police department? I know you asked a question about.
I
coaching.
don't know that if she's actually talked to the police department. I didn't actually pull any of the police information on whether she's actually called in or that type of thing, but I do know that the police are aware of that situation because that house has been an issue for some time with things that have gone on there.
If she were here, I'd ask her to let us know whether she's done any private security measures. There's lots of things you can do, lighting and sensors and alarms and dogs
And again,
that
you
sort of
you
thing.
couldn't tell that when you went out to the property. I also just went out to this property as well because of that grade change. I really wanted to see that for myself to understand how that would impact this. I basically stood at her front door, you know, to get that idea of, you know, where you're gonna see that. And without an 8-foot wall in front of this house, you're not gonna, the intersection, it's not gonna matter. You're still gonna be seeing that intersection. There's just no way to do that. The grade change is just too much there.
For the record, I did make a site visit also, and there were no front yard fences on the entire street that I could see. So, correct. Okay, any further questions or comments from the board? Is there any thought to, just for the purposes of discussion, any thought to postponing it and giving her a chance to come here?
I prefer that we do that to hear from the applicant. Being that she feels unsafe, I like to hear what she has to say.
I can't guarantee that she'll come, but we can if that's your pleasure, if that's the pleasure of the board, I'll certainly make contact with the applicant and let her know, and we can schedule her for your next meeting. which
Is
is
there a motion to defer?
less than a month
then
away.
Yes, I can do that. Motion to defer
To the next,
to the next meeting whenever scheduled.
And I'll second that.
And can we do it to a date certain so that we can preserve the advertising? So your next meeting would be on the 24th of February?
Yes.
Can we make it possible that she could also be available by telephone? Is that
No,
possible?
I'm sorry, she can only testify in the context of a quasi-judicial hearing before the board.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion is to be deferred on February
24th.
24th?
and we'll vote whether she's here or not. Is that a fair understanding?
yes, it
Right.
is.
Okay,
Yes.
give her a chance to
Okay.
make her case. Any further information that we need? Yes, second from Mike?
Second,
Mr. Eisner? Any further information we need from her at our next meeting that you can tell her now?
Well, we can, what I can do is take your comments from this meeting and let her know these are the issues that you had concerns over, that you basically have voiced, issues of, security, how the fence is gonna work, how it's gonna operate as far as gates and that type of thing, so that you have a better understanding of that, and pass it along to her. Whatever she provides back to us is what she provides back to us, unless you wanna provide an itemized list.
I think you got our questions pretty well summarized. So, if there's no further comment, then let's have a roll call vote on that motion, please.
Mr. Eisner?
you want to vote of yes?
To defer.
To defer, yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Alahousas?
Yes.
Mr. Rabowski?
Yes.
Chairman Elliott?
Yes. Okay, opinion of the chair, the motion is carried. It'll be on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, any further comments on item number 5 for the record?
No, though, just for the record, that the applicant will actually provide that letter into your minutes, submitted into your minutes, that the applicant did formally request the withdrawal so that he could either work on the project and try to make the homeowners association satisfied, or come up with another alternative altogether.
Okay, no further actions required on number 5 then, correct?
That's correct.
All right, next item is staff comments. Ms. Erwiller?
Staff does not have any comments at this time.
Our legal counsel, any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay, board comments? Nothing? Mr. Eisner? Okay. I would like to, but apparently our attorney has advised that I cannot do so, so I won't. And I'll deal with it in another way, as she has recommended. And so then we're open for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Unanimous, and we are now adjourned, okay? Oh, can I bring up one thing? The schedule for our meetings in February and March. Is every going to, our next meeting is February
The
20?
24th, and you will be in this room. I will be at Citizens Academy because that is my designated night to present at Citizens Academy, but Michelle, the principal planner, or Dave Healy, the consultant that works with us, one of the two or both, will be here in attendance to work on this application, and I think we have one more potential application that may be coming forward.
All right, and are we all available to be here for next month's meeting? Ms. Santa, everybody's here? Mr. Eisner, you're not sure? You're-
I left
is it-
Citizens Academy to come here for this meeting.
I
So,
see.
I mean, I prefer to move it back a month, but if I have to, I will be here.
Would you have a problem if Cindy could sit in with you? That way you could avail yourself of Citizens Academy, because we do have an alternate who can sit for you.
I do normally would not have a problem with that, but in reading this,
Okay.
I did want to be here.
Okay.
And then for the March meeting, I will not be available, but I wondered, so it'd be no, sorry?
Who is the vice chair?
Chris. Okay.
Chris.
All right, just so, Cindy, you can available?
It is possible there might be no meeting. I don't have applications out 2 months ahead, so I won't know that, but we can certainly accommodate you, Herb, if you need
Okay.
to
Okay.
change that meeting, or we have the meeting
That week,
without you.
I'll be on vacation, so
Okay.
if you want to postpone it, I will be here, but I'm sure Mr. Herbosky will be able to,
We'll discuss it.
ready.
Just for the purpose of the minutes, and the record of this meeting, since we did continue after the formal adjournment, I would just ask that the closing be when we actually close.
Okay.
And hopefully the maker of the motion and the
Yes.
second are okay
Okay,
with that.
sorry.
We're okay with
All
it.
right.
All right, we're now adjourned at 7:26. Thank you very much. What you want to let us do? Did you, get you want? Sure. Yeah. No, it's telling us.
The paver was, yeah, the pavers were approved under the permit for the house. It was one and the same, and a lot of those units there, this is one of the larger units, that particular one, which I think is the reason why it was has this little tiny. I mean, the room is really small in the back, that it's basically, their complaint was they couldn't put their Christmas tree in it. Why you put your Christmas tree outside? I don't know, but okay. But, most of the other units, there was enough room to allow for that, like a fuller room. It's just this unit happens to be one of the bigger ones that's on the corner, so. Well, I realized the bugs would be that bad. And that's late. You're now getting to the crust of the reason why we couldn't approve it.